Did Valentine's Day not work out the way you wanted? Did you not get the flowers and candy that you wanted, or did you, like me, go see kind of a bad movie with George Clooney? Well, I have something that will brighten your day. Fred Barnes, he's a senior writer for the Weekly Standard, here to share the love of politics with you, Internet. Welcome, Brother Barnes.
Well, thank you so much. Look, if the movie was The Descendants, I like that movie.
I've struggled to care about the plight of extremely rich people in Hawaii. It was I'm a Cinderella man kind of guy. I want the gritty, the quiet man, somebody with a little grit to him.
Because you could see,
himself should be quite a. His 2006 C. Steyerwalt. It is
to extend
paying for the payroll tax.
The National Finance Director for the Democratic National.
To extend that tax cut, along with vital insurance lifelines for folks who've lost their jobs during this recession, and they need to do it now, without drama and without delay. No ideological sideshows to gum up the works, no self-inflicted wounds. Just pass this middle-class tax cut, pass the extension of unemployment insurance.
Yeah, this is a conference report, so chances are there's enough support there to make it, to let it go through, but I think that you'll see a fair number of dissenters on it.
What was the mood in there about, specifically about the not paying for the payroll tax extension?
They're still talking about it. It's a little heated.
It's a little heated. That was Florida Representative Dennis Ross in answer to the president's plea earlier in the day, yesterday, for speedy passage of a continuation of a couple of his stimulus programs, one being a 2% reduction in the Social Security payroll tax rate, and the other long-term unemployment benefits. This is Power Play. Welcome back to Studio 3, Internet. And aren't you lucky that you get to keep Fred Barnes, but you get to add a Mercer, David Mercer. He is a Democratic strategist. He is a former Deputy National Finance Director for the Democratic National Committee and a friend of this powerful Internet telecast. Okay, gentlemen, it is an absolute mess right now, just a couple of blocks away from here, over in the Capitol, as Republicans try to push through a not paid for, and we will discuss what it means to pay for or not pay for a tax cut. But as Republicans are trying to get this legislation through that was so, President Obama worked them over so good in December for, they're trying to get away from it as fast as possible. So we'll start with you, David. Do you think that this is the president going to be able to card a big win on this? Is he going to call this, "I've won, you did what I told you"?
Well, I think the American people and the 160 million people that will receive the payroll tax cut will be winners in all of this. The question is whether Republicans want to be a part of that. I see the trend moving to them wanting to be less with self-inflicted wounds and more with action on common sense to get this out of the way and to allow for the recovery and the course we've set on recovery to continue without any kind of obstacles not in not funding the payroll tax.
Well, wasn't that big of him? He did not say, he did not rub any Republican noses in it. You should take note of that, Internet.
But remember, why there was only a 2-month extension. That was Harry Reid in the Senate required that. Republicans wanted to work out a deal where it would be the whole year. We wouldn't even be back here now arguing over it. Republicans were always going to go along with it. They were not going to be in the position, I think you'll agree, David, where they were raising taxes on the middle class. They were never going to do that.
That's generally not how they roll. That is generally not how they roll.
It's not good in an election year.
Right.
So, but look, this whole thing could have been done in September, absent Harry Reid's intervention and President Obama going along with him.
Well, okay, so what has basically happened is that the Republicans brought forward at the beginning of this week a credible threat. There are 3 items running here. You have one that costs about that is valued at about $94 billion. The Internet always corrects me when I say that the tax cut costs. They say you can't cost us our own money. Sorry, Internet. Valued at about $94 billion, which is this 2% tax cut rate. Then there's 2 other items with a combined value of about $70 billion for the year, which is the so-called doc fix, which is what we've been doing since about 1995, which is to prevent a previously passed modest cut to the reimbursement rates for doctors and hospitals who provide Medicare services, and an extension of unemployment insurance for the it's benefits, really not insurance, for folks who are the long-term uninsured. Once Republicans said, we're going to decouple, we're taking the tax rate, we'll just pass the taxes, fine. The Democrats on the conference committee very quickly got together on this. Fred, I want to go back to you quickly. How much does this hurt John Boehner? Does this weaken Boehner significantly?
No, I don't think so. Look, Republicans are never going to break their pick on these. These are not the things they want to fight over in an election year. They hope to get some spending cuts, and they're not going to. And they hope to hold all these, rather separate these things. They didn't win on either one of those, and so they had to retreat.
Why are Democrats, David, given the fact that they advantaged themselves so much in December by painting the president as a tax cutter and the Republicans as fighting a tax cut, why are Democrats seemingly willing to go along on pay-fors for these other two things? Is it because they now see that the Republicans will go on their own?
Well, I think that's the case, and at the same time, you want to keep in balance your word to cut the deficit. And as we saw last week when the stock market took a little dive, in part because of the Greek or the Euro crisis, you also saw a lot of defense contractors, Northrop and Boeing and others, lose because of some of their earnings. And they did because of the projected cuts that are going to happen in spending in this administration or through the policies of this administration. Also sequestered funds that might come into play and so forth. But nonetheless, again, we need this payroll tax cut so that we can keep the economy going with $160 million having 60 million people having more money in their pockets to keep the engine going.
Fred Burns is shaking you off like a bad pitch.
Look, Republicans, I don't, while some of their members are obviously against doing what Boehner's decided to do, the notion that this payroll tax cut has any growth effect is nonsense. It's been tried over the years. Many times Bush tried it, and then, you send out checks and you do these things. It just doesn't. I hate to tell people because they don't like it. There's one way where you really stir growth. You increase investment. And there, you know what you need there? You need some people with a lot of money to do that. It's the rich people who especially do that. President Obama doesn't want to do that. That's why we have such a laggard and mediocre recovery.
Last word, Brother Mercer.
We've been giving that a try, and during the Bush era with those tax cuts, there's $2 trillion sitting on the sidelines that has not gone into investment, and in a lot of instances has gone in outsourcing. That has to be realigned. We have to start providing incentives for insourcing, and at the same time, in this recession, we got to give a bump to the middle class.
All right, there you go, Internet. You have now heard David Mercer on the subject, so you can consider yourself satisfied. David, we appreciate you being with us today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay,